It's my honor to be here before you this evening for what is the 11th annual Football Ring of Honor. And I have been in East High now for 6 of them, and I am very excited to be here this evening again. We did a ceremony last spring and renamed our track, and many of you saw that as you drove in this evening with a new sign. It's also hard to believe that from 1919 to today, it's been East High playing at the Vine Street Stadium. It's been East High playing at Sloan Wallace Stadium, and it's now the current East High football team playing at Memorial Stadium. And there's a lot of history within all of those years, in all of those stadiums, and through those current players linked to all of you former players. And that is a tremendous honor for East High School and your football program. And I'd like to give all of them a round of applause at this time. We would also like to say thank you to Dr. Jane Lindeman, Superintendent of Schools, Mrs. Marla Padgett, Principal at East High School, and all of you for making this a special night for not only the people behind me, but all of those in front of me. It is an honor for those gentlemen, it is an honor for those gentlemen, and it will be an extreme honor for everybody behind me to join the tremendous group that you see before you, and for years to come, the people that will soon come to this ring as well. At this time, I would like to introduce Mike Sheely, our Master of Ceremony for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Well, once again, I appreciate the opportunity to stand before a group of Trojans. It's been a while since I retired from teaching here at East High School, but many of the people in the audience tonight I know and have had experience with over the course of my career, and I can tell you it's been absolutely fantastic. We have a number of different business items that we need to take care of this evening before we start our actual induction. First and foremost, unfortunately, we've had a couple of people pass away in the last couple of months that meant a lot to our football family here at East High School, and just want to mention their names. One of them we're going to actually induct tonight, and you'll hear more about him in a little while, but I just wanted to bring his name up before we start and have a moment of silence for him. The 2 individuals I'm referring to is John Wagner, who was a football coach here at East High School for a long time and a real active Trojan. And the other one is John Tidor, one of our inductees tonight, so we could have a moment of silence for them. I appreciate it. Thank you. The second item that I would like to mention is that through the Ring of Honor group, we were able to establish a walkway on Vine Street Stadium right outside these walls. And I know a number of people have already had their name or their family's name inscribed on those bricks. That's still an ongoing part of our organization. If you haven't had a brick engraved with your name on it and would like to, we can take care of that. To date, we've raised over $9,000 in this effort, and we really think that's a really cool thing. And I thank Charlie Aldrich for getting that going. So with that, that's really, really, really fantastic. So if you haven't had a chance to look at it, maybe you can stop by if it's not too dark before we're done and take a look at it. The other thing is that I want to reemphasize how much we appreciate Marla Padgett, the principal here at East High School, making these facilities available to our group to do this celebration every year. It's really, really a great thing on her part to continue this tradition. Once one thing's done at East High School, it's usually a tradition forever from then on. So this is our 11th year doing the Ring of Honor. So we're all happy to be a part of that. I also want to thank Al Pace, who's the athletic director here, who announced me. He's been doing a really good job of taking care of the nuts and bolts as far as getting this program going every year. He's in-house and he's helped tremendously to get that done. And then I also would like to recognize at least one other member of the audience that for many years served in the capacity of Booster Club president, and that's Mr. Bruce Clark. Bruce, would like to stand up. We also have Mr. Kendall Deal. He's a graduate of East High School, and he also served as a Booster Club president for, what, 4, 5, 6 years? Another position, once you take it, you might not ever get rid of it. Stand up, Kendall. So with that, we'll start our presentation for this evening. One of the things I'd like to start off with is that anybody knows me, I'd like to tell some stories, and just a real short one. I was here this afternoon getting the boards ready in the back, and if you haven't had a chance to look at them, they're pictures of all the inductees, and including this year's class. Anyway, I was putting those boards together and, working my butt off to get it done and get it on time, sweating away, and this one, I think he's a teacher here, he walked by and he kind of looked at those boards and goes, nothing but old people. Well, I tell you what, some of the people on that board, I'd say almost everybody on that board, they may be old, but they were important to East High School. At one time, they were East High. They represented the school and represented it in a manner that there's nobody else in the state that can match. And those people are inductees of this organization, and they should get our gratitude as fellow members of this organization, parents, relatives, students, football players. Those people were football players, and every one of them deserves to be recognized anytime and every time you see one. So they may be old, but I think they're really, really special. So with that, I'd like to go through and have the Ring of Honor members that are present, and I'm going to read off their name and a little bit of information about them. And I'd like each of these Ring of Honor members, once they stand, to remain standing until all the names have been read. First of all, a personal friend of mine and somebody I worked with for a number of years that spent his entire career teaching at Logan Junior High, then Logan Middle School, then Logan Intermediate, and now a hole in the ground. He came up to East High and worked with the basketball teams and football teams as an assistant coach for at least a couple years. Tremendous athlete, a great friend, and Hall of Fame member, Marv DeWard. Marv, would you stand up?
Mike, I have to stand the whole time?
Yeah, you can handle it. The next person I'd like to introduce to you is, and I think everybody knows him, Roger Kittleson. Roger served as head football coach at East High School for the longest period of time of any coach in East High School's history. Had the best winning percentage of any coach in East High School's history. Took a team to the playoff, and actually was one of the first East High School teams to win an actual playoff game. Also under his belt was a state championship and an induction into the Iowa Coaches Football Hall of Fame, Roger Kittleson. Another one is Mike Shealy. He's been around for a while. Next one is a person that as a football coach and an assistant, I tried to emulate. An outstanding member of the faculty at East, an outstanding football coach here at East High School, an assistant, and later on as head coach in various capacities around the state. Just an outstanding line coach and an outstanding teacher, Mr. Larry Van Ork. We have some other coaches that coached here at East, but they've already been inducted as Hall of Fame, Ring of Honor members as players, and I'll get to them in a second. The first player I'd like to have stand up is Craig Carper. Oh, sit down. I won't make you stand up. Craig Carper was an outstanding quarterback here at East High School, a tremendous athlete, an inductee in 2013. Mr. John Dunn, starting at quarterback, 1970 state championship team, pinpoint passing to all of his receivers, who was instrumental in that undefeated season. He's also an elusive runner, couldn't hardly be tackled. He was an inductee in 2007. Another one of the people that we need to have introduced is Mike Allen. He's been running around here leading tours, a lineman on one of the first undefeated football teams at East High School in the 1960s, an outstanding lineman, both on offense and a linebacker on defense, set the tone for linebackers to come at East High School. Mike Allen, 2005 inductee. Next player is Sean Hewitt. Sean played for me as an offensive guard, and he also played defense. Was a basketball player at East High School. Was a tremendous athlete, and as a line coach, I was blessed with many great players on the offensive line here at East High School, and Sean was among the top ones I ever coached. He played here at East High School, went on and played 4 years at Drake University in Des Moines. Next is Mr. Brian Jones. Brian was a all-conference lineman here at East High School at offensive center. He spent his junior year hiking the football to Reggie Roby, and we all know how Reggie Roby turned out. He's one of the best kickers this country's ever seen. Brian also went on to play at Simpson College, where he was an All-American. He came back to East High School as an assistant coach and eventually wound up as the head football coach here at East High School. He also helped with the varsity basketball team as an assistant and helped them as they won and went to state. Actually won championships here at East High School in basketball. Mr. Brian Jones. Larry Tees, another offensive guard, played for me here at East High School. Great football player, another one of the linemen that I really thought was a young man I was lucky to have working on my offensive line. Ron Turner. An outstanding tackle on undefeated East High School football teams, opened the holes for a number of running backs that also had an outstanding career at East High School, and one of those unsung heroes on the offensive line that did a tremendous job, was inducted in 2010. Charlie Aldridge. Another player here at East High School, was an offensive end, tight end, wide receiver. Went on from East High School after being on state championship teams here during his career at East High School. Played at State College of Iowa, then UNI. He was one of the starters on the Mud Bowl team in the last game, played at War Lathan Stadium in Cedar Falls. He later became an assistant coach at Central, and then came to East High School and was an assistant football coach here for a number of years. Also helped with the women's basketball program, got the 5-on-5 program started here at East High, was very successful at that. And then he came back at East High School as the head football coach in 2005. Charlie Aldridge was inducted in 2009. Mike Watkins. From what I understand, he had just one of the most bone-crushing blocks of any tight end East High School's ever had. Just an outstanding football player, inducted in 2012. Darnell Jones, he could run right, he could run left, he could run up the middle, he could just about do anything he wanted to. He's an outstanding football player for East High School, and one of the young men I truly enjoyed getting to know. I've known him for quite a few years. Was inducted in 2006. Randy Lee. Tough slot back. Slot backs a lot of times never receive nearly as much glory in the East High offense as the tailbacks and fullback, but East High's offense would have never operated if we wouldn't have had a person like Randy at the slot back position. Did an outstanding job in his years here at East High School. He's been a tremendous supporter of East High School athletics ever since he graduated. 2011 inductee Randy Lee. Jerry Moses. If there's anybody in this audience that does not know Jerry Moses, he must have had his head in the sand. Probably one of the greatest athletes in the football in the state of Iowa. A tremendous runner. I would have hated to have imagined how many touchdowns he would have had if he ever played a football game. 2005 inductee, Jerry Moses. Dave Magnuson, another young man that played primarily on defense when he was a starter here at East High School for 2 years. Another guy that you just didn't want him hitting you. He was a tremendous athlete, a person you could count on to do just about anything you asked him to do, including running through a wall if that was what it needed to be in order to win a football game. He also came back and has helped with the varsity staff here at East High School the last few years, and he's done a tremendous job. Inducted in 2010, Dave Magnuson. Scott Rowe. Another young person that is just a tremendous athlete and a tremendous contributor to East High School. He's done a great job of raising his young children become Trojans. Did a great job as a tight end at East High School, and then he was also an outstanding linebacker on defense. He also participated, should say lettered, in basketball, and he was a fantastic baseball player. Scott Rowe was inducted in 2014. Mr. Gary Stevens. I had the good fortune to be able to play football with Gary when he was a senior and I was a junior. At that time, when Gary played football here at East High School, 3-year letterman, previous to him being on the varsity. Last year we inducted his uncle, Roger Stevens, probably until Jerry Moses came along, probably was one of the greatest backs we ever had play at East High School. Gary eclipsed many of the things that his uncle had done as a football player at East High School. Went on to play at Northwestern, where he suffered an injury and had to quit his football career. An inductee in 2005, Gary Stevens. And last but certainly not least, Mark Loftus. Mark was another one of those people that was just outstanding as a middle linebacker. He could not be blocked. You couldn't even hardly do anything with him on the football field. He was just tremendous. He was a person that had to follow in the footsteps of one of the inductees that we're inducting tonight. In the 2 years that they started at middle linebacker, East defense was probably among the best defenses ever at East High School. Mark Loftus inducted in 2005. Thank you. I hope I did not miss any of the Hall of Fame Ring of Honor people that are here. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, without any doubt, here is a collection of the greatest former football players and coaches in the state of Iowa. There is not very many programs in this state that can year after year put 7, 8 people into a position like the Ring of Honor and not run dry and well fairly soon. I think we're at 65 inductees into the Ring of Honor right now, 8 more tonight, will push our numbers over 70. And I know that that's got to be somewhere around the record as far as the state is concerned for outstanding football players in one high school. In this state, this is the #1 place. We're at the #1 time with the #1 event, the East Waterloo High School Ring of Honor. Tonight we have 8 inductees. We have a representative of each of the inductees that could not be present tonight. We have 3 inductees that we're honoring posthumously. Our first one is probably the individual that really got East High School on the map as far as football is concerned in this state. Looking back, I've done history of East Waterloo football. We started playing football at this school in 1898, which puts us amongst only a small group of schools in this country that played high school football at that time. We've had some outstanding coaches during that time, but the one that really got the ball rolling was Leonard Raffensperger. His teams won the first mythical state championship for East High School in 1941. His offense was just unbelievable. The points he ran up, the defense he employed was way before his time. He left East High School and went to the University of Iowa, where he was not nearly as successful as he was at East High School, but he still enjoyed a great reputation as a football coach in this state. I served in the capacity of guidance counselor at East High School during my career, and everything I heard about Coach Raffensperger was that he was probably the best guidance counselor ever at East High School. And read about him, heard about him my whole career. Tonight we have a chance to honor him, and his son is here to accept his award. John Raffensperger.
Thank you. It is really an honor to be here. This is the tradition of East High athletics, and East High football in particular, is certainly not lost on anyone who has been around the state of Iowa. The person who really should be up here accepting this is my brother Gene, who is also here. Gene was a starting quarterback at East High in 1947, and had the honor of playing for my dad. I wish I would have been able to play for my dad. I didn't. But I was born in Waterloo, lived here until I was 8 years old, and then my dad took a job at the University of Iowa, and so I, of course, did not finish at East High. But I coached in Iowa City for 41 years, football and track, and there are anyone who is familiar with football in the state of Iowa knows the talent and the reputation of East High football. So it's an honor to be a part of that, and it certainly is an honor for my dad to be honored tonight. I think we have. Can you still hear me back there? This is all I really have to say. I want to thank the East High family for allowing us to have this tonight.
What happens in the week?
One last thing I might say, I don't remember this because I was too young, but I was always told that the first words that I learned in growing up in the first 8 years in Waterloo was beat West High.
next person we'd like to honor is Mr. Don Buck. Don Buck was an outstanding athlete here at East High School. He graduated in 1954. He had 9 varsity letters as an athlete here at East High School. He was named the most valuable player in the class of 1954, the most valuable athlete. We have the good fortune of having his widow, Gretchen Anderson, here this evening to accept his award. Gretchen.
It is with sincerest gratitude that I accept this special honor given to Don. We would have been so appreciative and so proud. Thank you so much. I must add, I have been watching the greatest 9th grade football game this afternoon, just outside these doors. And our grandson, Jake Buck, was one of the coaches for the Holmes. And probably the brightest spot each week for me. Again, thank you very much.
The next award goes to Mike Hewitt. Mike and I were classmates here at East High School. We graduated in 1965. Our main claim to fame is that we had, at that particular point in time, the best record that Howard Vernon ever had as a football coach at East Waterloo. Our senior year, we were 2 points away from being undefeated. At one time, we were rated number 1 in the state, and then we got beat in successive weeks by Fort Dodge, 14-13, and then Mason City, 14-13, which dropped us out of the rankings. We came back and we beat Regis of Cedar Rapids. That's back when Regis was a powerhouse in athletics. And then we finished our season with a victory over West Waterloo, 20-13. Mike was an offensive tackle during his career here at East High School. I was talking to Mike Jr. just before, and Mike was saying, "Do you have any stories about Dad?" I have to tell you, Mike was a quiet person. Always full of laughter, always fun to be around, a great friend. But he didn't brag about himself. He didn't talk in the huddle. He wasn't a rah-rah type of guy, but he was a tremendous contributor to that football team. He left the East and went on to the State College of Iowa, where he started as a defensive lineman his freshman year. Then after that season, he decided to give up football and start his working career at John Deere's, where he became a very, very successful member of the John Deere staff, both as a worker and as a union representative. Mike was a great guy, and here to accept his award this evening is his son, Mike Jr.
I was going to come up here and regale you all with tales of my dad playing football, but as Mike said, he never really told us stories about how he played. He was an amazing man, humble in every way, and I thank you very much for this honor on behalf of my family. And congratulations to all you former ring inductees.
When we first picked the members of this year's class, one of the outstanding people that's ever played at East High School was the quarterback on that 1941 undefeated football team. He went on to have a successful career at the University of Iowa, and he also was a member of the first unit in the Army that was called the Devil's Brigade, and it was the forerunner of the Green Berets. After serving his time in World War II, he came back and was an administrator at several different schools in Iowa. And I was really, really looking forward to meeting this individual this evening. Unfortunately, 2 weeks ago, John passed away. It would have been nice to have him here this evening, but we have probably, if not one of the best people in the world to accept the award for him, at least close to it, General Curly Holtman.
It's a real honor and a privilege for me to be with you, the leaders of this great, wonderful high school of ours, and continue to be the example. I had the good fortune and pleasure to be John's backup quarterback. I was a year earlier and then quarterbacked the team the following year. But one of the things that really has never been very well known about this honoree was the fact that he not only was a catcher with two big leaguers, and both of them were from right here, East Waterloo, a lefty and a righty, who went to the big leagues, one with John Tidor at Iowa, and he was a letterman in baseball for 4 years at Iowa, in addition to being the honoree as he was the great quarterback for East Waterloo and, of course, for the University of Iowa. But in that time, he not only served with those two baseball big leaguers from East Waterloo, but he also played with a second baseman from Northeast Iowa, which you'll recognize immediately, Jack Dittmer. But the one thing I would like to say about John as his backup was he was a great man here in the schoolroom. His fellow students loved him. They honored him not just as an athlete, but as a human leader here in the classroom. And so it was a great honor for me to be asked, not just by Coach Raff as his backup, when he was, of course, the All-State quarterback, but also when I had the opportunity of being with his wife and praying that he would be here because he was suffering from Alzheimer's, but didn't have the opportunity. So thank you, every one of you, for the role you have played as leaders in East Waterloo, and let us follow the example, not just of you, but of course everyone who's being honored here tonight, including John. God bless and thank you.
The next player to be honored this evening is Steve Alfred. I didn't really know Steve. He was a player before I was coaching here at East High School. But he was an outstanding football player. If you look on his picture hanging on the wall back there, he's wearing number 85. I think as a football player, he's recognized as an offensive center. There's not many offensive centers that get to wear 85. So Steve must have been a very, very versatile athlete to move from an end position to offensive center. Steve also participated in basketball, was on a state championship basketball team, and he also was an outstanding baseball player. The guys that are athletes that are here this evening, I'd like you to pay particular attention to some of these individuals that are receiving awards. They weren't specialists. They played a number of different sports, lettered in most of them, and were outstanding in every one of them. So the next inductee is Steve Elfritz.
Thank you, Mike. I'd like to thank the selection committee and honor me. This is such a great honor to be here tonight. When I stand and look at the board back there and see all the names and the greats before me, it's truly a humbling honor. How we doing? Oh, hello. Hello, there we go. So yes, this is truly a humbling honor for me tonight. The greats before me, my teammates, Ron, Craig, Norm isn't here this evening, but it's great to see you guys have already been inducted. We had a great team. We beat on each other every night. We got the best out of everyone in the group, so I'd like to just recognize my family here this evening. Starting with my mother and father, Charles and Dorothy Elfritz. My brother Terry and his wife Sharon. And then my lovely wife Kay. Our son Matthew, Carrie, and her husband is Ian, who couldn't be here this evening, but their son Jackson, they're expecting their another one any day now. I'm glad they held off until my honor to this evening. So, and then Kristen is another daughter that isn't able to be here this evening. My other daughter Kelsey and her friend Carla, and Katie as well. She's attending Iowa State, going to school there. I hope she's going to school. So anyway, my football career basically started 7th, 8th, and 9th grade at McKinstry Junior High. I had a coach by the name of Mr. Rotsert in 7th grade, Mr. Smith in 8th grade, and Mr. Dillon, Mr. Johnson in 9th grade. Seems pretty easy to play at that level. 10th grade rolls around, you're going to start to play big-time football now. We start to intermingle the grade schools, the elementary schools, Logan, Bunger, McKinstry. You're competing again, so it's another round of competition. We all got along, did great. I can truthfully say that when I got to 10th grade, there was a coach up here by the name of Maynard Hamilton. For some of you that knew him, what an awesome coach. When we started doing two-a-days, I was like, wow, this is crazy. About the third day of two-a-days, I went home that morning and I told my mother, I said, I'm done. I said, this is crazy, the Sandburrs, this man hits you, beats you. This is what I wasn't expecting. I went home, my mother said, well, have you told your dad? And I said, no. Well, needless to say, he did find out about it. Needless to say, did he put me back in the car and drove me back up here. We walked down to Ferguson Field. My dad got in front of Mr. Hamilton and said, I'm sorry, my son's late for practice, but he had chores at home to do. Mr. Hamilton said, that's fine, we're glad to have him back. So I continued my football career then. I owed to my dad, 11th, 12th grade. I didn't play in the very first game against East Sioux City. I played every game thereafter. I was number 85. I then became number 51. Coach John Wagner, who unfortunately passed away just recently, Coach Kittleson must have seen something in me, put me in there at center, and I can truthfully say that I've never been offside or had an illegal procedure against me. There was an occasional time I would turn to Craig and say, what was the number? So anyway, I have great respect for our teammates. In closing, I guess, I want to thank my dad for the push, the coaches, my teammates for making me who I was. there's always somebody out there trying to make you one step better than who you are. Believe it or not, take their word for it. They've been down that road, and accept anything that they have to offer. It'll make you a better individual, human being in life in general. So with that, I'd like to congratulate the new inductees and also go Trojans.
One of the stories you get to tell in this community is that there's always been a little bit of, in my opinion I should say, a little bit of a hierarchy as far as success in either east or west. If you come from Evansdale, you might not be exactly on the top of that hierarchy. You got to earn it. Our next inductee earned it, big time. Mark Wilson came from Evansdale. He's probably among the best football players ever to come out of this school. He was an all-state linebacker, probably could have been an all-state running back. He left East High School and went on to play at UNI. He was a 3-year starter at UNI. I've had numerous people telling that he could not be blocked. I talked to Mark on the telephone, and he really wanted to be here this evening. He lives in California. He's got a successful career out there. He graduated from college and went on and got a graduate degree. And he's doing fantastic. But he told me, he said, you know, they always said I was too slow. I couldn't play middle linebacker. I was too slow. But guess what? I made every play. And there's plenty of people that have the bruises to show for it. We're honored to have his brother here this evening, Mr. Steve Wilson, to accept his award.
First off, I know if Mark was here, he would tell everybody thank you. It is definitely an honor. Again, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I was a Trojan myself, not near as good as he was, but again, to be here among all these people is an honor. Thank you very much.
It's always great to be around athletes here at East High School. And in my career, I've had the opportunity to be in this building and work with people that I actually went to school with or their children. One of the guys I went to school with is a little bit younger than me. His name is Charles Young. Probably was one of the most fun guys I've ever been around as far as working with him. He was a hell of a baseball player. Was on the team that went to the Little League, not Little League, but the American Legion World Series. He wound up having a son go to East High School, and his son was a chip off the old block as far as being a great athlete here at East High School. He was a football player, basketball player, and track athlete. He did a great job at all three. We're honored to have him come all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, to accept his award tonight. I'm talking about Charles Young, Jr.
Thank you. This is an honor. And I want to say thank you because I see a lot of my coaches. I see Coach Jones is here. Can y'all hear me? No? What am I speaking into? No microphone anymore, right? Coach Jones is here, Coach Kettleson, Coach Aldridge, Coach Shealy, and the guy that kind of started my class out, the class 87, Mr. DeWard. I'm honored, and I want to say congratulations to all of you, and just congratulations to my teammates. I see Dave Manderson, Scott Roller, and Larry Teaser's here. we had a great run. I've got some other people that I want to thank because they put a lot of pressure on me as being a student athlete here at East High School. And some of these names you're going to try to figure out, well, why are you saying these names? They didn't play football at East. But they're my family members, and they all laid it out here on the gridiron at East. My Uncle Jesse Henderson, who's back here, he was an East Side football player. My Uncle Ken Stevenson, Don Ross, Pete Ross, George Ross, Cordell Smith, Troy Young, Earl Young, Tracy Greer, Clifford Greer, Arthur Greer, and last but not least, my dad. He played baseball here, and he inspired me to be the athlete that I was he ran a flag football league, and that flag football league was probably one of the biggest things going on the east side of Waterloo back in the day. Now, you heard of the stories of how great Jerry was and maybe a Sammy Minton or a Black Frost, but my dad brought all these guys back. And I guess what I'm telling you young men out there today, I knew the history of East High, and my dad was a part of the history on the baseball side, but when he started that flag football league, all these greats came out on Sundays, and they laid it on the line and played flag football. So, and that's tough, because if you saw Jerry out there running, I never got to see Jerry play with his pads on, but the way he was elusive on that field, on the flag football field, and you couldn't get his flag, I could just imagine how it was trying to tackle him with pads on. So with seeing all of that, it kind of inspired me to be an Eastside Trojan football player, because all those greats and those list of family members that I listed, that's a lot of pressure. So if you're sitting around at a family dinner and whatnot, and you've got all these Eastside football players or basketball players that really put it down at the school, it really makes you work harder. And I had an opportunity my freshman year actually it was my sophomore year at UNI. We went to Platteville, Wisconsin, and I saw one of my heroes, Walter Payton, and went up and had a conversation with him, and that's kind of where I got my number 34 from. And I said, Walter, so what do you run the 40 in? He said, I'm not going to say his exact words, but he said, 4.647. I'm like, wow, 4.647. I'm a lot faster than Walter Payton. But I guess they called him Sweetness, and everybody knew him as Sweetness. But I think a better name for him was Toughness, because after practice, Walter Payton took those pads off, and he ran, and he ran, and he ran. And I was like, wow. I had a pretty good work ethic, but I knew I had a long way to go to be Sweetness, or actually Toughness. So what I really want to say to you gentlemen that's playing here tonight or playing the game tomorrow night, talk to some of your historians, Jerry and Coach Aldridge. All these guys played football here at East, and kind of follow your dreams. I wanted to be a professional football player myself, and I had an opportunity to get a full ride scholarship in Northern Iowa and didn't have to pay school back. And I've got a daughter who's also followed suit, and she got a full ride athletic scholarship at a Division I school in Georgia. But the thing about the whole thing is, follow those dreams, put your hard work into it, and listen to people. Because I knew that East High had a long streak, and a lot of the guys that I played ball with, they knew it too. And there was really nothing wanting to stop us from doing that. When I got to East High, I wanted the state championship, because we had come from Logan. We never lost a game of football. My class of '87, we never lost a game of football or basketball until our junior year. And it hurt. But if you guys put your mind to it, work hard, and just listen, because these guys were contagious to me. Their spirit that they had coming at East High School, it rubbed off on me, and it rubbed off on my peers, because I felt I was a leader amongst my peers. So it rubbed off on all of us to be the best we could be here at East High School. So in closing, I just want to say, follow your dreams, keep working hard at it, and listen to these historians that have been here, that have put it down at East High. Thank you.
Our next inductee is another outstanding football player that had his father go here to East High School. He's outstanding. He is already a member of our Ring of Honor. The gentleman was also a football player, basketball player, and track athlete. 3-sport letterman, outstanding in every one of them. A leader on the football team, another guy that could just about do anything he wanted to do. I was looking through some information I had at home, trying to find some pictures, and by gosh, I probably came up with more pictures of Lance than I did anybody else. I don't know how that worked out, but he's maybe last tonight on the agenda, but he's definitely last as far as the Ring of Honor inductees that we induct into this organization. He's a great guy, did it all. Very proud to have him here this evening, Mr. Lance Dunn.
First of all, I want to give honor to God for allowing this to happen. Without God, none of this would be possible, so I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. I had talked to a few people before tonight, and they was like, you got your speech ready? I was like, you know, I'm not really a big speech guy. I like to come from the heart. So whatever I'm going to say, I want to say it from my heart because that's what I feel. And I don't want to keep looking down at a sheet of paper. So first, I want to, like I said, I want to give honor to God. I also want to give honor to my mother and father because they instilled in me to be able to do what I do or do what I did. I also want to give honor to my wife, Jamie, and my daughter, Brooke, and my daughter, Kennedy, who are here. I'm missing two. My two oldest are actually in college. So my oldest daughter is Lexus, and she's in Missouri going to Lincoln University. She's a senior. And then I have Lance Jr., who's a redshirt freshman for North Dakota State University playing football. So those are the people who are really important to my life at this moment, and I wanted to honor them, especially on tonight's event. I guess I wanted to break down what I wanted to say in sections. And the first thing I want to do is thank the people who helped me be what I was able to be in my career. And that would be first, again, my coaches, Coach Kittleson, Coach Jones, Sheely, Aldridge, all you guys were instrumental. Even Mr. DeWard, there he is, DeWard, back in Logan, and you know, that's where it all started. I can honestly say in middle school, I was an average athlete, you know, late bloomer, basically. Wasn't the fastest, wasn't the biggest, wasn't anything. But one thing I did have was heart, and that was instilled into me from my parents. I hated to lose, you know, so even if I wasn't the greatest, if I lost, I didn't take it too well. And so that's what inspired me and pushed me to be what I was able to become. I want to thank my teammates. I had probably a group of the best teammates I think that you can imagine. A lot of my teammates were a lot better than me in my eyes. One of them is here tonight, one of my best friends, Darnell Jones. He's a big inspiration to me because Darnell was when we were kids, he was one of the elite athletes when we first started. So he gave me something to shoot for. So that is what pushed me and motivated me to try and get as good as Darnell or better if I could. And so we kind of pushed each other that way, and also translated, we went to college together as well. So he was one of my big inspirations. There's so many people on my team that were big inspirations. Neil Brown, to name a few, Peter Middleton, LaShane Sattler. I mean, these guys are all great football players. And I just happened to be the quarterback to be able to lead those guys, and we had a great team. I mean, we had a great team. The list goes on. I mean, Tice Nagel. I mean, I could just name guys on that team that were like incredible football players. So I want to thank those guys. But one of the things I wanted to mention, I do want to tell a story, and this story is about my dad, actually. He's probably going to kill me. But my mom, she knows about this story as well. One of the things that motivated me and pushed me to be a person that I was is that again, I said I hated to lose. And my dad would always, through the years, we would wrestle. Okay, me and my dad would wrestle me. And he would, you know, my dad, I had a young dad. My dad is not that much older than me. He would kill me like every year. And in my back of my mind, it's like, one of these days I'm gonna get him. One of these days I'm gonna get him. And so he would put me in one move. It was the cradle. He would put me in the cradle all the time. And I'd be yelling, and my mom was like, John, let him go. Well, he let me go, laughing at me. I'm like, okay. So one year, I just think it was after my senior year, I think I went to college for the first semester, and I came back home after my first semester of college, and there was this yelling in the living room, and then my mom was like, John, and she was like, oh, that's not Lance, that's John yelling, let me go. So I did end up putting him in the cradle that year. And one thing that taught me is that I will not challenge my son when he gets 18, when he was turned 18, to a wrestling match. But that inspired me to, again, I tie that into pushing me to be the best person I could be, the best competitor I could be. He made me a competitor. He may not speak that much, he may be quiet, but he's a very tough competitor for those that know him. And my mom, I took traits from both my mom and dad. My mom is more of a feisty one, and so I got that from her. My dad is more of a competitor. So I took those good traits. I also took some bad traits, so we won't talk about those tonight. But again, it's just an honor and a privilege. I want to thank the selection committee to be inducted into the East High Ring of Honor. It's truly an honor. I left it all out on the field. I left it out on everything I did when I played sports because that's all I knew. And I wanted to be a Trojan. No one had to make me be a Trojan. I grew up wanting to be an Eastside Trojan, and that's what I became, an Eastside Trojan. So in conclusion, what I want to do is leave a message to the current players. You got to want to be an Eastside Trojan. Don't let anybody tell you you should be an Eastside Trojan or convince you to be an Eastside Trojan. If you don't want to be an Eastside Trojan, then you can't be an Eastside Trojan. Okay, you have to want that for yourself. And so if you got that jersey on, represent it because that's what we did, and we want you guys to represent East High to the best of your abilities. Okay, I want to thank everybody for this honor, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
All good things must come to an end, and we're approaching the end of this celebration tonight. But seeing as how I'm the MC, hopefully I can take the liberty to have a few more words before we break up. Number one, just like Lance was talking to the football team, I'm talking to the football team. I was known, I think, as a yeller when I coached. Not very many people had trouble hearing me. Is there anybody in back that's having trouble hearing me without a microphone? I didn't think so. I'm telling you, at East High School, I don't know what happened after the year 2000, but something happened, and one of these years, something's going to happen that's going to be good again. It may not be this year, it may not be next year, but sometime it's going to happen. Law of averages got to catch up with you eventually. But just like Lance said, we need young athletes playing football here at East High School that want to be a Trojan, believe the Trojans are not going to get beat, believe the Trojans are going to win, and believe that nobody can defeat you. That's what these gentlemen did when they played here at East High School. They were great football players. But they listened to those halls up there. You walk around there at night, you hear things. And the things are, you'll be good, you'll be great, you'll be champions. We've built new walls here. We've got a new football stadium we play in, but we still walk those same halls. And I want you guys to listen to that. I want you to go out on the football field and bust your ever-loving butts to play the game the way it's meant to be played, and good things will happen. Maybe someday you'll be a general like Curly Holton. Maybe you'll be a doctor. Maybe you'll be a lawyer. You can't be a quitter. You can't do things like argue amongst yourself. Trojans don't do that. You listen to your coaches. No matter what they say, they're your coach. Do it and do it to the best of your ability, and you'll be successful. Coach Aldridge coached here in 2005. And he started this as a testament to the athletes that have played here in the past and to the athletes that are football players that will play here in the future. The program was basically had one aim in mind: to help get the football team out of the gutter and back on top. Like I said, it hasn't worked yet. It may never work in the future. But you guys have got the responsibility as far as doing everything possible to make East High School football what it once was, and it can be again. So with that, I would like everybody to stand as we sing our school song. Hopefully everybody here knows it. Here we go. Cheer, cheer for East Waterloo. Wake up the echoes cheering for you. Send the volleys cheer on high. Shake down the thunder from the sky. What though the odds be great or small, East Waterloo will win over all. While her